Hello, Jessica Frost Palace here with a video for lawnfawn. Today I'm sharing a cheery layered congrats card using some of the newest lemon sets, so let's get started. First I die cut a bunch of images from the Zesty lemon and lemon vine border die set from white cardstock. I die cut most of them multiple times, so I'll have lots of pieces to build my card. Next I color them with Copic markers. I start by coloring the images with my lightest shade, and then I go in and add shadows with my darkest. I blend back out to the lightest using 1 or 2 additional markers for each blend. I also use one of the lighter markers to color the edge of each die cut so that the white cardstock doesn't show. This wouldn't be necessary if you were building a scene on a white card base, but since I know I'm using colored cardstock, I wanted to disguise the edges. This took me about 45 minutes of coloring, but you could cut down the time if you use colored cardstock for your die cuts. You could either leave them a solid color or add a little shading with markers or pencils. The die cut pieces have a ton of detail that will stand out, even with just colored cardstock. Once I finished die cutting all the pieces, I put together the lemons and lemon slices. The lemons have a darker solid base that I adhere behind the dotted textured front. And for the lemon slices, I start by poking out the wedges of a white die cut and adhere the outline to the circle. Only the outer edge will be seen, so I didn't bother coloring the center. Then I poke out the colored wedges and inlay them to the slice. They're identical, so you don't need to worry about which wedge goes where. I repeat that for the other lemons and lemon slices and then color the stems brown that I forgot off camera. I also adhere the yellow centers to all of my flowers. I die cut flowers from both the Zesty lemon and lemon vine border set because they're slightly different, but I used the centers from the Zesty lemon set on all of them. Next I took a piece of acetate and trimmed it to 4 1/4 by 6. I used my scoreboard to score it at 5 5/8 and used my bone folder to fold and crease it along the scored lines. The acetate I use has tissue paper between each sheet, and I usually leave it in place while I'm cutting and trimming because it helps me see the acetate more easily. Once I score the acetate, I take an A2 panel of blue Jay Cardstock and slide the acetate on top so that the fold is over the top of the blue panel. Off camera, I stamped a sentiment from Make Lemonade onto the blue cardstock and heat embossed it with white embossing powder. I turn the panels over and add a piece of double-sided tape to the back of the blue panel. Then I carefully fold the acetate along the score line and adhere the tab to the tape. Once it's adhered, I trim off any excess acetate from the bottom of the panel. Next, I start arranging my design across the panel. I want the small sentiment to be hidden until you lift the acetate, and I also want some of the lemon design to be adhered to the blue cardstock so that it's still visible once the acetate is lifted. I like the way it'll give you two different designs on one card. I start by adhering the lemons to the bottom of the blue cardstock panel. Then I add the lemon vine, another lemon, leaves and flowers onto the acetate. I trim off the overhang and then add more die-cut pieces to the top part of the panel on the acetate. I don't add anything to the top of the blue panel so that the sentiment takes the focus. I add a few flowers, and now you can see how the design changes when you lift the acetate. Next, I sandwich the card inside a piece of plain copy paper and stack acrylic blocks on the panel to help keep everything flat while the glue dries. I never quite trust that I don't have ink smeared on my acrylic blocks, so I like to use a piece of copy paper to make sure my card front stays clean. While it's drying, I die cut the Scripty cheers from white and gold sparkle cardstock and adhere them together to create a thicker sentiment. Once the panel is totally dry, I add the sentiment onto the acetate between the lemon arrangements. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the Lawnfawn channel for even more crafty inspiration. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have an amazing day and happy crafting. Bye!